Alaikum, family, peace, healing, and light, and welcome back to another episode of Healing with Angelica's podcast, where we discuss all things healing. And if you are new to the show, welcome, beautiful souls. On today's episode, I have an amazing guest joining me today, my brother Anthony Muhammad, as we will be discussing today's topic, perseverance. Anthony, welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing fine by Allah's grace and mercy. I thank you for considering me, having me on your show. And, I'm just ready to uplift the people with what it means to persevere through situations as we definitely need in this time today.
Yes, yes, yes. All praise be to Allah. We definitely do need that. I am so excited to be talking about this particular topic, perseverance. Now, before we get started on today's episode, do you mind letting our audience know just a little bit more about you?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Anthony Muhammad. I'm located here in Miami at Mosque number 29 here in the seventh region of the Nation of Islam. And I'm a recording artist. I also teach online. I host a show called The Next Generation. And you can follow that at seventh region TNG. Also have a platform called Brain Food TV. I'm just here as a servant to the people, as a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan under the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, yes, yes. All praise be to Allah. Thank you so much for that, Anthony. Now, let's get started on today's topic, perseverance. For better understanding, let's define what perseverance means. Perseverance is being persistent in doing something despite difficulties or delay in achieving success. Now, I know that I am not the only one that may slack off at time and become doubtful, stopping myself from being persistent. Some may call it laziness, lack of faith, unmotivated, but in the context, do the situation that we go through causes one to lack more perseverance than others? And that brings me to my first question for you, Anthony. Now, before we got on the show, I was inspired from your incident that I want to say you had 2 years ago,
Right.
if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. Okay. Your incident that you had 2 years ago, and just how you were able to continue to have such a strong attitude and strong demeanor even through that time of difficulty and unease. So, if you don't mind sharing us your healing journey with the situation that you had experienced 2 years ago.
Right. Well, first, I can start off with just explaining the situation in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we were recording a music video on a boat, and everything was going very well. And we entered a gas dock to where they wanted to fuel the boat. And as we left that dock, we sort of started to smell gas, but we're no boat experts, and we just left a gas port. So
Mm-hmm.
it's okay just to assume that it was just from refueling on gas. Um, and as we were chilling and continuing with the video, um, out of maybe 16 to 17 people that were on the boat, I was affected the most by it. I was actually closest to uh, the engine hatch. Um, and so, as it was happening, we could go into more detail throughout the show, but, people were jumping into the water, and it was just one of those kind of things to where you just had to preserve your life. And I can't swim. And so I was just, so my
Yeah.
safety was prayer and searching for Allah to send something my way to where I would be able to survive that. And lo and behold, he did. And, there's nothing that I won't believe that he would do for me today
Mm-hmm.
through a situation like that where, you feel as if you don't know how permanently damaged you're going to be. But Allah is one who is the healer of all. And so today I'm standing in front of this camera, proud of who I am and proud of what I came through in that situation.
Yes, yes, yes. I love it. Now, I forgot to actually get, because I wanted to actually get get the photo of the before and after, because you look amazing. Like
Praise be to.
from that situation, and I seen it how it affected your face,
Right.
and just how you look now. Like it's like, what, that happened to you? Like, oh my
Praise
gosh.
be to Allah.
Yes, yes. So I want to know, like, through just having to experience, well, let me just ask you, what were the injuries that you sustained after that, well, during that incident?
Right. So I had first degree burns on my face and my hands, and then second degree burns on my legs,
Mm-hmm.
but just the front of my legs. Um, and really, what helped me understand what it means to get through that time is one situation even involving something that brother student minister Nori went through, to where he went through a situation where he was trying to protect the community. He ended up getting beat by some gang members, and he was almost unrecognizable. And the minister came to visit him and told him that Allah would heal him and that he would be a great minister one day. And so I was just trying to stand on the shoulders of those who had went before us, and just knowing what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been through, it gave me the perseverance to push through because, number one, I was at the age of 3, I developed type 1 diabetes. So I always sort of been going through like health adversity and things of that nature. And so it allowed me to be strong enough to know that I would be okay through the situation. And as it was happening, uh, yeah, adrenaline is rushing through you. And, as I'm on the boat, I'm just praying to Allah. I was telling him that I'm grateful for whatever life I do have if I didn't make it off the boat. But it was just so lucky that we were in the middle of a marina. And so I'll just say it, a bunch of rich people with big, humongous, giant yachts, and they had speedboats attached to it. And about 3 of those speedboats came rushing out to the boat. But, as a soldier in the FOI, I was to make sure, because it was black women, black men on the boat, I made sure that they got off because that's just how we are, sacrificing for our people. And, I didn't know the severity of what was going on. It's sort of, it's when it's happening, it's hard to believe that it happens like that, right? Because even as the hatch door to the engine, I could just remember in slow motion, because it happened all in a split second. But I could remember in slow motion seeing the door fly into the air and the like engulfing flame like coming right behind it. And it was nothing I could do at the moment. And once it had happened, I was just like, that just happened? Like in my own head. And I was just like, and I started to smell the burnt hairs in my nose. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I could literally smell the burning kind of, and as I said, as adrenaline was rushing through me, I felt it was very painful, but it was bearable enough for me to get up and jump onto the speedboat that they had brought. And, as I was getting, or as we had docked on land, I was walking up this ramp, and I seen my friends who had swam too short. They almost didn't, a lot of people don't understand how hard it is to swim through that massive amount of water. And so they were kind of, they had swallowed a lot of the water, so they were kind of throwing up. But one of my closest friends, he was crying and looking at me, and I just looked at him and I was like, I'm gonna be all right, bro. And just like kept pushing, and he just looking at me like, man. And so, this police officer who had been in war before and had suffered similar situation, he carried me to the ambulance. And from there on, it was just about persevering and not, making the worst out of the situation. Because mentally, if you're going to get through it, you have a decision to make. You could either be strong about it, or you can subdue yourself to what it means to feel sorry for yourself. And at that time, I knew at the end of the day, that wouldn't have helped me in the first place. So,
oh my gosh, soldier, you are.
praise be
I
to
just love.
Allah.
Oh Oh my God. I just love the fact that, like, because when you're in that moment,
Mhm.
it's like you really, I mean, you're in the valley of decisions. Like, okay, I can be weak or I can be strong.
Mhm.
Like, because I mean, even though, of course, you said, you didn't really know the severity of the situation at that time,
Right.
but you knew at that time that, oh, I need to make sure I get these people on the boat, like where your
Mhm.
mindset was not even thinking about yourself, but
Mhm.
just thinking of others and how your heart. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, it's just so
That's okay.
beautiful.
Praise be to Allah.
Yes, I
Thank
just
you, sis.
love that. I love that because it takes a strong person to even see in that situation where death was looking like at your door, because I
That's right.
mean, that was, you know
Mhm.
you still was in this attitude of just gratefulness and attitude of serving.
Mhm.
And I love that. All praise be to Allah.
You know what
So,
one thing I try to do is be obedient to the perseverance and pay attention and keep my eye on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because he always talks about if you're gonna die, at least die a man, and go out with strength, and because what's the point of going out weak if you can go out strong?
okay.
So that's one of the things. And one thing that I started to notice about the reality of the situation is when brother student minister Nuri Muhammad texted me, and he talked about how this process that I was going through was like a process of eliminating transgression from my life toward Allah. And that
Mm.
through this, if I got through this, that there really is no situation that I could possibly think about that could happen in my life to where I can say that I'm going to give up on this mission or go anywhere. Because after you go through something like that and you don't blame Allah for what happened, and you understand the direction that He's trying to pull you into, and as the minister said, even in this last Savior's Day lecture, he
Mhm.
said hard trials are necessary for change. And so everything that I have received after that moment has just been a blessing. And it hasn't come easy. And I think that he's showing me through the process of resurrecting our people that what you expect from it isn't going to necessarily be what you're presented with to be successful, but you have to use what you've been given. And as long as you're still alive, that you can still persevere through anything that's in your path.
Mm. Mm, mm, mm.
Allahu
Ah,
Akbar.
Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah. Oh my gosh. Like, I'm sorry, you guys. This is the type of, like, conversations that I love. This is why I have this podcast. This
Mhm.
is why I get people like you on here just to tell your story and just talk about things like that, because it's hard for people who have been through things like this, and knowing that struggle is ordained,
Right.
that we are going to have to keep struggling to be made in perfection. So knowing that and understanding that is why we should also as well know what to do and the type of attitude to have
That's
when
right.
you are going through that
Mhm.
struggle, that bad situation, or
Right.
etc. So all
Right.
praise be to Allah. Oh
Yes,
my
man.
gosh.
And you know what really what else helped me pull through? It was just certain situations in which God was letting me know that it was his divine intervention. Because somebody came into my room once and told me, you're going through this, but somebody in the other room was drunk last night and they jumped into a pool and broke their neck, and now they're paralyzed in the next room. And I said, oh my goodness. I
Mm.
said, oh well, it looks like I may have the ability to recover from this. And no matter how painful it seems, that somebody may have gone through something harder that day. And you have to be grateful for what you do have at the end of the day. And just through the whole process, and as we get through the questioning, I think that'll pop up in my mind. Just the experience through the hospital experience, it was something. It was Allah showing me that it's only Him that was
Yeah.
able to get me through that time due to the circumstances. But I'll let you. We can get into the circumstances as we go on here.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't
Mhm.
mind, let's talk about how was your
Mhm.
experience once you was in a hospital and then you realized that, whoa, I just been in a freak accident. Like,
Right, right.
what was like, how was that?
Well, first I didn't even recognize that I was airlifted to the hospital that I woke up in. Um, because the last thing I remember was getting morphine and they put in a tube down my throat to make sure that I was still able to breathe.
Mm.
And they put me to sleep, and I was at a new place, and the doctor had mentioned something about somebody being airlifted from the situation, or on the news they talked about it. So I'm like, who got airlifted? My doctor came in and was like, you got airlifted. And I seen the picture and I seen the feet. And I'm looking, I'm like, oh, those are my feet right there. And I just look, I'm like, okay, wow. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
guess that happened. And so when I got there, um, I would like to say this. Florida care in general, operating businesses in Florida, they sort of lack professionalism at times, because it's so overly populated that I think that the workers get overwhelmed with what it means to personalize care for people. And so they actually forgot to clear medications for me for the first night I was there. So I literally had to overnight sleep through the pain. And so it was no type of medicine given to me. I was literally just feeling everything that had came to me. And it was this young black man that was in the same room as me, and we got to talking about situations, and he talked about how he just got stabbed being in a fight, and I
Mm.
sort of started to talk to him about, the life that he could be living to where he could avoid things like that. Uh, but Allah was just showing me that regardless of what you are feeling at the time, that He was gonna pull me through it anyway.
Mm.
And so the next morning, they were able to get me that those medications and things of that nature. But I'm diabetic, and they did a pretty poor job of managing my blood sugars and things of that nature. And at one point, they had me in the wrong section of the hospital, so I was
Oh
wondering why care
gosh.
wasn't coming quick enough. And they're just, to be honest, healthcare is a very lazy category down here
Mm.
in Miami. And personally caring for people, because everybody has something going on. It's overly populated, and so they were wondering, like why you're here. And so they moved me into another room, and they made a mistake in even moving me into that room because I was in a room with somebody. As I was trying to rest up, I was in a room with somebody that had dementia and kept peeing on himself in the middle of the night, and the
Oh my
doctors have
god.
to kept constantly coming in and attaching this thing to where it wouldn't allow, to where it's not so easy for him to urinate on himself, but he kept taking it out and wondering where he was in the middle of the night. And so as I'm mentioning that to them, the diabetic team, as they came in, they were sort of wondering like, why are you in this room?
Mm-hmm.
um, and eventually they got me into the right section where I was able to get quicker care. But it was a process of literally learning how to walk again,
Mm.
because with the skin being gone, the nerves and the nerve pain wasn't absorbed by anything. So I could literally feel like the movement of blood and everything going through
Mm.
my legs. And every time I would sit up, it would be like uh, just one of the worst pains you could possibly imagine. And I would have to work my legs sort of before I got to walking. It was just hard to even walk to the bathroom, you know.
Yes. Mm.
And so I had to literally relearn what that meant to be able to get up on my own. And they put me through, physical therapy and things of that nature. Uh, but it was just one of those situations to where I had to really pray to Allah, and I know that's what He wanted me to do. Um, and as a couple of days, I think I was in the hospital for about 14 days, maybe
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks. Um, and through that, uh, it was just a situation in which my face was healing. I didn't know exactly how it was going to heal. But as I started to see, I'm like, okay, well, my face is healing. And one of the doctors said, you know what? Your face is actually going to come through as fresh skin. You're going to have a new start with skin on your face. And I was like,
Right.
wow, well, that's a relief because as I was on the boat, I looked at the reflection of myself on my phone because I just wanted to know, but I had boils on my hands, so it was sort of hard to do so. But once I was actually able to look at myself, I said, oh my God, like this is deep right here. And I was just hoping
Mm-hmm.
that it wouldn't have been something permanent, but I was ready for whatever Allah was ready to give me at that time. But all praise is due to Allah. He brought me through it perfectly. And, per se, I didn't need the doctors to be perfect because Allah is perfect.
Yes. Oh my God. Soldier, you are. I keep saying that just like you. Oh, you. Wow. This
Praise be to Allah.
beautiful example. Beautiful example. Now, I do have another question, but I do want to just let my audience know if you guys are enjoying this episode because I am enjoying it. Please, please, please show your support by donating today. Cash App $signs Healing with Angelica to help sustain future episodes just like this. I will also leave more info to donate on the screen below. I love you all. Now let's get back to today's episode, Perseverance with Anthony Muhammad. Now, Anthony, when you are talking about just the stressful situation with having to deal with the hospital
Mhm.
and going through the healing process,
Right.
well, how long, basically, how long did it take? How long did it take for you to like I say that you was completely healed and ready, and then within that content, what was it that kept you being patient
Mhm.
in that process? Because I believe that you have to have patience with dealing with that and then dealing with the hospital, like, whew.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, how long did it take you to heal, and like how did was you able to maintain such patience in
Mhm.
that time?
So it's so the for me to heal enough to be able to actually get out of the hospital, I believe it took like 16 days. Um, and I could walk, but I could barely. I had to walk with a cane, and that was still very painful. As I got home, I just had to just rest and have my feet propped up and my legs propped up for less pain. And see, and what happened is, the drugs that they give you, they were very strong. They were needed. I could say that so for me to be able to even operate to even bear it, it was needed. But
Mm-hmm.
then I started to notice that certain things in combination of drugs may cause even blood clotting and things of that nature. And so once I started to notice like a pattern with that, they had given me Oxycontin, and I literally disposed of those and just started using extra strength Tylenol. And then they
Mm-hmm.
had this other ibuprofen, this strong ibuprofen, and I was like, you know what? I'm not about to get hooked on these.
Yeah.
I'm strong enough to be able to use this extra strength Tylenol and be able to get through it. And through that healing process, um, it was, and when you talk about patience, Allah's way of working that situation is that I had no choice but to be patient. So that was his lesson in it. Like you don't have a choice but to practice patience right now because
Mm-hmm.
you can't go ahead of the process I'm putting you through. And so once I just sat back and realized that, I was like, I'm alive, I'm here. Uh, I got everything that I came into the world with still.
Yeah.
Certain people go through incidences where they're not one able to produce children due to what they've been through and things of
Mm-hmm.
that nature. And I'm thinking after an explosion like this, that I'm still able to do that. It's an absolute blessing. And I would have to say, like, oh man, like it took about maybe about 4 to 5 months for me to literally stop feeling uh that kind of pain that was there. Um, but the skin was still very scar tissue like and tender. And so
Yeah.
I just had to, excuse me, get back into the flow of things. But I was one of them brothers to where uh this is what they told me in the hospital. They said, Mr. Muhammad, you're gonna have to be out of the sun for almost probably up to a year. And I just started laughing. I looked at her and I said, I said to her, I said, well, we'll see what this melanin's talking about. And she started laughing. I started laughing. I said, I won't be able to do that, but I'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And so, I'm a soldier. I got to get back out on that block. And so even at the times where I was only maybe able to give an hour out there, I was back on the block and I didn't give myself any excuses. And brother Tony Muhammad here in Miami had to at times advise me, as soon as you start to feel something, brother, just take it in and go
Yeah.
home. You're still in this process. And so I use the strongest sunscreen that I can find. And use to make sure that I had a hat that would cover the sun.
Yeah.
Um, and so just in that process, you have to understand that Allah has plans and the doctor has plans, but Allah has better plans. And if you're willing to fight through and make the sacrifices that should be made, that He'll allow you to get through it. And
Mm.
so I have to deal with that process and understanding. And now I'm an example of what you can give as a lack of excuse to say that you can't do something or serve this mission in a certain way. Because then I just bring up, well, were you soldiering with second degree burns still healing on you? Is that a reason why you can't come out, or is that a
Mm.
reason why we're failing in our duty? And so I try to be that kind of example, not to condemn anybody who may be going through a trial period, but to let them know that their trial may not be as hard, and that there are others that are going through things way worse. And you should consider that things and stand on the shoulders of those people who persevered, as we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about today. And when it came just the perseverance, and you have to find a way not to blame Almighty God for doing what He feels is best for you.
Yes.
And that comes with the faith of a prerequisite faith of knowing that Allah is in your best interest. And I would say that that's sort of what kept me in that patience, to know that Allah was in my best interest.
Yes. 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 Wow. So beautiful. So beautiful. Now, that brings me to my next question. And I think in a way you kind of sum it up, but in a sense, like, how how could one believe? Beliefs. How do you believe? What do you believe causes one to lack perseverance? And how could one obtain an attitude of perseverance? Now, I know you spoke on just knowing Allah and knowing He is the best of planners and He is the sustainer. Um, so within that context, would you say that being able to have that relationship with Allah is what keeps one's attitude great with perseverance, and is a relationship a person has not with Allah is the reason why one may lack perseverance?
Oh yeah, most definitely. If you hold on to the rope of Allah, it's a rope that never breaks. But if
Mm.
you hold on, if you engulf your mind into what this world will tell you to, on how to deal with those type of experiences, you'll come up with a million excuses. Because then if you don't see God's hand in it, you'll start to feel sorry for yourself and think that you were just chosen to be afflicted. And
Mm.
once you engulf yourself in what it means to be a victim in that type of thing, uh, victimizing yourself helps you to create excuses. But when you understand that that you've been guided by him and you've chosen to serve a mission. At that time, I can say that I wasn't on the exact path on unlocking the greatest parts of my mind at that time. You know, I was sort of going through it and sort of still fighting with myself and what it means to be my best self. And so Allah was sort of showing me that, you know, consequences to great responsibility for great people is dire if you don't take on the responsibility. And so today, in today's time, I tell anybody, I don't choose to go against Allah's will in any way, shape, or form because I don't want to know what comes next. That was good enough for me right there. You don't got to, yeah, God, you hit me with whatever trials you feel is necessary, but I don't want nothing worse than that. So so in that and knowing that he got me through that, there's not too much in this world that will be able to take me away from keeping my faith in Allah. Because not a lot of people go through that experiences. It's like a selected experience that you go through something like that and come out strong. And so it just gave me a lot more wisdom and it strengthened my willpower to understand that what I may be going through at a time is very minuscule to what I was going through at that time. But like I said, if you engulf yourself in the enemy's world of victimizing yourself, and you don't understand that the black man is God and that you are, and that Allah created himself through triple darkness, and through doing that, he defeated the impossible, then you can get through any situation on earth. If he was able to go through the patience of creating himself in eons of time, I couldn't even imagine going through that process right there.
Yes.
So he's already the best example we can have is Allah, but through his servant, in our midst today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I look at his trials and see what it means for him to rebuild and rebuild the nation by himself and travel around. And, you know, I didn't have anybody out trying to kill me. That's something that he has to deal with. You know, I wasn't out there having my name persecuted. That's something that he has to deal with. And he gives so much more than what I could actually give toward the mission, that I pull on his example very, very often. I pull on the minister's example, and that pushes me through a lot of things.
Yes. All praise be to Allah. He is definitely the best example for us. The fact that we can get through anything, you know. So all praise be to Allah. What advice do you have for someone who is struggling with being persistent in their daily lives when difficulties may seem unbearable?
Well, you know, in the scripture, it says after difficulty comes ease. And if you can understand that, and also pull on the experiences of other people that have been through things, you can know that you're not specially selected to go through these things, but it's just for a purpose to benefit you, your character, your willpower. And I pull on people like Minister Biat Muhammad, who was chastised by the police and almost killed just for serving the mission of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and people who have gone through things to where they had to persevere and be jailed in prison just for trying to manifest the best in others. And so it's about being grateful as well for what you have. If you're not grateful for what you do have, then you'll resort to feeling sorry for what you're going through. So I had one decision or two decisions. I could either just be grateful for still being alive and being able to come on a show like this and give a testimony of what I've been through to help people get through. Honestly, to help people get through their excuses. I think that a lot, even in the music industry, I feel like I am a very blessed artist with what I have. And a lot of people have told me, man, just make a song like this or a song like this. I'm sure you'll blow up off this. And I go, well, I want to be the example in the lack of excuse in the industry to look other artists in the eyes and have them ask themselves, why did I have to degrade my people to get to this point if Brother Anthony didn't have to do it? You know, what was
Mm.
he pulling on, and what faith did he have to where he could put a message that's beneficial to the people, and not one that's degrading our women, disrespecting the community, and ultimately giving a message that is really sent by Almighty God to be given to the world, because he will make all things new. And that's
Yes.
culturally, mentally, physically. And so we have to understand that. And when we understand that right there, um, I think that it comes with giving yourself a lack of excusing yourself. Because when, you know, when I look back on it, like you said, it's just decision based. You could have
Mm-hmm.
thought like this, or you could have thought like this. But I have beautiful examples through the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the example of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that helped me get through those times.
Yes, yes, yes. All praise be to Allah. You use you use the people before you,
Mm-hmm.
their situation, as a, I'll say, a gateway and motivation to how you should respond if you was to go through the situations in life, or the situation that you had just went through. So I love that, because that's what it is. You know, we have examples. We
Mm-hmm.
have people who have paved the way for us already, so we wouldn't have to go through these things. Or if we was to go through these things, exactly how is it that we are supposed to respond
That's right.
in going through these situations?
Right.
So, oh my
And
gosh,
then
I
let's
love it.
just think about even the ancestors, you know, in the time of slavery. Even if they
Mm-hmm.
chose to persevere through what they were going through, there was no freedom or way that they can free their mind from the chastisement of their open oppressors.
Mm.
So me today, I could persevere through it, and go on to accomplish whatever I put my mind to. At that time, they were beaten for no reason, you know, scorned for no reason, and taken from their land, put on ships, fed the worst of foods, and
Mm.
forced to become like the beast of the field. And so when I
Mm-hmm.
think about what they went through and persevered, if Allah brought us as a people through that time to be as beautiful as we are today, then, you know, there must be an ordainment for a struggle like what I went through.
Exactly, exactly. I always think about just what our ancestors had to endure, man. They really paved the way
That's
for
right.
us to just do what we can do now,
Mhm.
and not even have to, I mean, even though we're still being afflicted in regards to being in the world of our enemies.
That's right.
However, just the things that our ancestor had to go through, and like you said, like not having any reason as to
Right.
why they're getting beat up,
Right.
killed, you know,
Mhm.
dismembered, all of that.
That's right.
No reason. You
Mhm.
know, that should be enough for us to be like, you know what? We have to show our love to our ancestors, because they literally paved the way for us. So
That's right.
all praise be to Allah, Anthony.
Praise be
Thank
to.
you. Thank you so much for joining me
Oh my
today.
goodness.
Okay. Looked like here my guest had to click out, but it is fine. I want to thank Anthony for joining me today to discussing this amazing topic, perseverance. I would also like to thank my amazing audience in Healing Tribe for joining us today. I pray this episode was informative, valuable, and healing to you all. Also, be sure to give us your feedback, share, and subscribe on any of your favorite podcast stations. Closing the Gap Broadcast Network on Facebook and YouTube, and or on my Facebook or YouTube channel, Healing with Angelica, so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes just like this, and we can continue to spread the healing to those that are in need of it. Also, if you are ready to start your healing journey, I am offering a 1 hour discovery call with a copy of my ebook, Heal Yourself, for free. More information to donate will be in today's show notes, including information for today's amazing guest, Anthony Muhammad. And it looks like we got him back on here before we end, so give us a moment.
Praise
Brother,
Allah. Oh my.
yes.
Yep. Okay. Yep. I hit the wrong button. I was trying to activate my do not disturb and end up exiting out of the whole thing. That's crazy. But I,
No.
you. for even having the heart and mind to be able to produce a podcast like this, to where people could get their testimony and understand that healing is a process and it's not just handed to you. It may come with even more trials through your healing, but when you get through it, you can be able to give a testimony that will heal others. And so I thank you for letting Allah use you to be able to come on this Closing the Gap platform. And for everybody involved with the Closing the Gap platform, I want to thank y'all for staying so consistent on this platform and educating our people in different ways. So I just want to thank you for inviting me on the show.
Yes, yes, yes. All praise be to Allah. Again, I thank you so much for even, allowing me to have you on here, you being vulnerable enough to share your story and allowing us to embrace your journey of healing and seeing what Allah God had allowed you to get through and look how you are now. Like, it's so beautiful to see. All praises be to Allah. Now, before we end today's show, do you have any closing remarks for our audience today?
Uh, just know that through this and persevering through anything, that you have an example to push through, or you have or an option to push through, or an option to give yourself an excuse. And the thing that takes away that excuse is that the main point that Allah created Himself in triple darkness. He had to push Himself through the triple darkness of His own mind to become the light of the world. And so through that, anytime that you go through a dark time and you persevere through it, you are just producing more light within yourself. As we was made in the image and likeness of God, we really don't have an excuse to give ourselves, because God has given us all the solutions. And I mean, if we choose to submit to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you will have a solution for every problem that you're going through.
Yes.
And so, this world will produce excuses for you. So try to bring yourself out of that world of excuses and into the mind, and overcome your emotions into the thinking of Almighty God.
Yes, yes, yes. Woo! I love that. You ended it off so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you again for joining me today. Also, thank you, my amazing healing tribe, for joining us as well. And we'll leave you all as we came. Assalamu alaikum, peace, healing, and light.
Assalamu alaikum, family.